This panel is about transparency, democracy and accountability and how the web can help that. We've got four quite superb speakers, all of whom are expert practitioners. I'll introduce them in just a second. But first of all, I just wanted to just remind myself, as much as anybody else, and possibly you, as to why what we're discussing today is so important. Now, if the clicker is working, it's a sort of slightly ethereal clicker. There we go. Two numbers today speak volumes to me, 26% and 19%. 26% was a survey that came out this morning. That is the percentage of people in Britain who think that their Member of Parliament is doing a good job. Okay? So barely a quarter of the population actually think their Member of Parliament is doing a good job. In Britain today, the mother of parliaments. So what's 19% then? Well, if Parliament isn't doing a good job, traditionally, we've relied on the third estate. We've relied on the media, on the press, to defend us from the excesses of Parliament, whether it was Watergate in America, whether it was the journalists who worked on the expenses scandal here in the UK. But that 19% figure is rather gloomy, actually, because that's the percentage of people in Britain who trust journalists to tell the truth. And that's just not a random figure. That's not just a figure this year from the News of the World and the hacking scandals. That is a consistent figure over each of the last 20 years, going back to the first time this survey was run in 1984 by Mori on a sample of 2,000 people. So less than 20% of the population trust journalists to tell the truth. 26% of the population think that their Member of Parliament is doing a really good job. So, to use a metaphor, we're a bit stuffed, frankly, aren't we? How on earth, in that setting, where people don't think members of Parliament are doing a good job, they don't believe the journalists are telling the truth, how on earth can we have a functioning democracy? And I hope that's one of the things that our speakers are going to touch on this morning, because for those of us who use technology a lot in political accountability, we're at last seeing this transference away from journalists and politicians as the sort of holders of the truth, the keepers of the faith, to individuals. And I think I'll just show you one of the projects that Indigo's funded indirectly that we think is making a difference in this space, just to pick one of many, is a budget transparency and accountability site that's just gone live in Nigeria quite recently. This won a competition at a co-creation hub in Nigeria, which Indigo's funding. We gave a small prize, and then some developers pulled together this really very, very good-looking site to try and break down the budget of the Nigerian government. And I think it's a fantastic start. It's only been running for a very short period of time. And the lovely thing about this is it's not being driven by a patronising aid agency or a sort of a post-colonial government saying, do you know what? I think you need some transparency. That would be good for you, in your opinion. It would be good for you. This is being done by Nigerian people who are hacked off with the fact that their government is unaccountable, remote, and has severe problems with corruption. And to me, this is the future. It's individual citizens being empowered to use these tools to hold governments to account. And holding people to account has two bits to it. It has that democratic interface, the talking to the politicians, voting them in, voting them out, lobbying them, doing all the traditional things you have to do to make them accountable. But underneath that is this information. If you don't have the raw information like this, presented in a comprehensible form, in a digestible form, then you can't do the democratic accountability bit. And that's what some of our speakers will talk about today.